Hello and welcome to Back of the Net and Beyond, where today I'm going to be speaking to Troy Townsend, who's Head of Development at Kick It Out. How you doing, Troy? You okay?
Yeah, not too bad. A little bit hot and flustered, Dan, but yeah, all good, all good.
No need to be flustered, it's only me.
I'll take your word for that, yeah.
How's life treating you at the minute?
Yeah, obviously we're in different circumstances, so I'm still working from home at the moment. With obviously working in football, you're not allowed to go to football clubs, and most of them are only just returning as well. So it's a new way of working. I think I hit a brick wall a little while ago, whereas it was quite good to start with, because I
Yeah.
was at home and I wasn't doing all the traveling that I do.
Mm.
And I was putting on online events, so it was quite good. And then I think mentally I hit a brick wall kind of thing. So
Mm.
I'm almost just coming out of that, have a cycle of that now, and hopefully, forging ahead again. So yeah, it's been good. It's been indifferent. Everyone's going to have different experiences, aren't they? But yeah, on the whole, I don't think I can really complain.
Good stuff. I suppose it's about adapting, ain't it, really? Obviously I wouldn't say everyone's in the same boat, but we're in the same storm.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's about adapting and obviously using kind of the negative situation, trying to turn it into a positive. Um,
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
do you want to just, aside from obviously, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you really, really busy. Obviously, I've done my research indirectly anyway, because I know who you are and I know kind of what you're about. But for the listeners, if you just want to let us know, tell us about Kick It Out and obviously your involvement in that.
Yeah. Well, Kick It Out is football's equality organisation. So we're an anti-discrimination organisation. Many people have known us as Let's Kick Racism Out of Football originally, as we were formed back in 1993
Mm.
to tackle racism, to provide players with a voice and to help them
Mm.
overcome the kind of abhorrent racism that existed at that time,
Mm.
Um, we've now changed into an organisation that tackles all forms of discrimination.
Mm.
Um, that's why we're just called Kick It Out now. But I'm very lucky to provide education into the academy structure. So anyone from 9s to 23s, staff and parents, I provide the education. So I put together all the educational plans and deliver as well. And it's good because it keeps me involved in that change room environment as such, Dan,
Yeah.
particularly when you're with the players. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As much as it is education, there's a two-way process to the conversations. So it's not just me talking at the players or me talking at the staff. The education is kind of helping to understand, and they can ask as many questions as possible. So I really enjoy that. It really brings something out of me, and hopefully it empowers the players as well. I also work on the mentoring side of the game as well, or the business, sorry. So I run a program called Raise Your Game, which helps underrepresented people. So as you know, football is very underrepresented, particularly
Mm.
throughout its levels, apart from the playing side of it. So helps underrepresented people put in touch with mentors from
Yeah.
within the industry through 7 different disciplines. Anything apart from, obviously, I can't go and give anyone a playing contract, but we can
Yeah.
help them if they want to get into the media. We can help them if they want to get into sports science, refereeing, football business. So we cover quite a wide scope.
Mm.
I came through the program myself 10
Okay.
years ago, and yeah, it's been again, it's something. This year before lockdown, I put on events at Sky Sports to understand the media.
Mm.
I put on a women's only event so that women can feel empowered about working in the footballing industry.
Yeah.
And since lockdown, we had a coaching event with I managed to get the likes of Jurgen Klopp and Gareth Southgate involved in that.
Oh wow.
It's a real reputable kind of mentoring service that we provide, with the outcomes of the possibility of people going to work in the industry, or at least gain some experience within the industry.
Mm.
And it's a powerful product. It's supported by the Premier League. So it's a real powerful product, and one that I'm really proud of. So
Mm.
those are my two big initiatives that I work on within the organisation. And obviously, every time there's an incident, as we hear and know about,
Yeah.
I'm one of the vocal pieces. But
Mm.
we've been challenged a lot as an organisation as to whether we're fit for purpose, whether we're just all about t-shirts and nothing else. And you
Yeah.
have to take the rough with the good, and
Mm.
try and continue to do your day to day,
Mm.
because it's a tough industry to work in. It's absolutely a tough industry to work in. But hopefully, we come out the other side. We're in a very difficult period, obviously, at the moment, along with Black Lives Matter and all that stuff. So hopefully the messages are out there and people can start to appreciate, representation and difference.
Yeah, it's massive. I mean, you mentioned a lot of things there, and it seems like you've got a lot going on. And one of the things that you mentioned kind of resonated with myself because, as you know, there's a lot of when there's an incident, there's a lot of things that can happen and come about off the back of said incidents. Hence, kind of yourselves, which have been around for many years, and obviously Black Lives Matter, and various other kind of organisations. And from the outside looking in, sometimes people don't know kind of what you do, what Black Lives Matter is about. Doesn't mean to say they don't agree with it, but they just don't know what it means and what you do. And sometimes they may have the perception of, oh, you're just here to kind of just shout about kind of racism without going into much detail. And we only hear from you when an incident's happened, which is high profile or something like that, which obviously isn't the case. So I'm assuming based on kind of the things that I just mentioned there, which are kind of a small strand of the other issues that are out there in terms of getting into people's psyche and getting them to understand what you actually do. I'm assuming you have to do quite a lot of convincing, sit down, have a chat with various different organisations or people within different fraternities to explain what you actually do and break it down.
Danny, I think that's par for the course for most industries, to be fair. But remember, racism, let's just focus on racism if you don't mind. It's a tough topic to talk about.
Definitely.
It's a tough topic to appreciate as well. If you haven't walked in the shoes of someone or a community that has constantly been belittled or dehumanized because of racial abuse, where do you go with it? So, sometimes I throw it back in people's faces in terms of, I'm not being disrespectful at all, but, recently I had the opportunity to do a piece on Sky Sports with Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher. And I often hear on Sky Sports when they talk to the pundits, the ex-players, they say, oh yeah, we were given this T-shirt to wear and, we didn't know what it was for. And when we finish, we throw it down into the middle and that's it. So the thing that I said to Gary, when you were throwing the T-shirt, did you ask any questions? Did you ask why you were wearing it? Did you ask what the organisation was about? And then did the person who was throwing you the T-shirt, did they understand it either, So there's a two-way thing here. Yes, I understand that sometimes people will not get what we're about and they only see us when they think that we are shouting about another incident of racial abuse and why do they keep talking about it? But this is why I'm really pleased about the education that we do now. Because it was not around in a Gary Neville's day or an Ashley Cole's day. It very much was just put the T-shirt on for awareness. It's about a racism organisation, and when you finish, just put it in the middle. I would hope that now there's a little bit more awareness, although it's still needed. But absolutely, what you said is right. Is we need to continue those conversations and keep it being open-minded because. First and foremost, we're only a charity. We're a part of football, a big part of football. We're a charity. We're the biggest reporting bureau in terms of in football, but we don't have the ability to sanction. So we were being criticised. Obviously, the John Terry and Anton Ferdinand case, and we were being criticised quite heavily as to why we didn't sanction John Terry, a lot harder than what he was. We are the middle organisation in all that. We get reports in. We'll push the reports onto the FA. We then seek some kind of conclusion from the FA in terms of how they're investigating the case, and then we'll pass it back on to the victim where we can. The thing here is, would I like us to have more power? Without doubt. If you're asking me a direct question, I would like us to be the ones that are part of all of that, so that maybe the outside world would appreciate us a little bit more. But in a sense, our hands are tied a little bit. I have to use that phrase because people do fundamentally see us as, well, you haven't done enough, you haven't made that player, not return to the game until he's get education and you've only given him 8 matches, that's not our decision. And most of the time people will hear me talking will be because I'm saying, I don't think that's good enough and I don't think it's strong enough. But unfortunately, I don't have the power, or we don't have the power to change that.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's about understanding, isn't it? Where people just kind of see you as the face and think, well, why haven't you punished X, Y, and Z as opposed to this person? And it's like you said, you haven't got the power to impose those sanctions. And that, again, is about people understanding what Kick It Out is actually about. And it's good that you're actually getting the information out there now. And I draw back on when I was playing when I was younger. So I'm 39 now, and I retired when I was 31.
You look good for your age, I'll tell you that much.
Thank you. You mentioned something there when you mentioned kind of Ashley Cole and people like that, and they're my age group. And I remember, I don't want to upset you or the organisation with what I'm about to say, but it's basically my story and my history with Kick It Out. And it was when I was at Bournemouth, so I'm going back probably 2002, 2003-ish. And obviously it was the area where you were given the T-shirt to wear. Brilliant. So I'm a youngster then, so I'm like 21 or whatever at that age, at that stage of my career. So I put the T-shirt on, the whole team's got it on, and we've got a mixture of like black and white, and it's not necessarily about colour anyway, but I just want to throw that in there. And we're doing the warm-up as you do, half an hour, whatever it may be, and then play the game. After the game, I can't remember the result, but one of my teammates came up to me and said, "Oh, like, did you hear the racial abuse you were getting?" And it was a home game, so playing at home at Bournemouth. Don't know what fans it was, I can't remember, but the long and short of it was I didn't hear anything, so it was good of him to obviously make me aware. And that was coming from a white player as well. I went and reported it to the management staff, who were great, and obviously they took it further. Nothing came about of it, and to be honest, I didn't expect anything. But my train of thought then was, if I'm wearing this T-shirt before a game and there's 5,000-10,000 fans there who can visually see everyone wearing it, both sets of teams, right? And then they're still going to abuse me. What message is a T-shirt sending out? If people still can't understand it, they can see it, but they're still going to go beyond that and say whatever their rhetoric is in terms of racism and racist slurs. So from that day on, I never wore it again. And it didn't come about until the latter stages of my career when I was at Tamworth, and I was 30 at that stage. And that was the first time I came across the Kick It Out T-shirt again. And I seen it in my peg, and I said, I'm not wearing it. Bearing in mind, my character is just chilled out, don't make a fuss about anything really, go in, train, do what I need to do and go home. So I was never one to kick up a fuss or anything. So I said, I'm not wearing it. And we had a few kind of players, as you do, like banter and brilliant banter and whatever else. So one of them caught on to me saying, I'm not going to wear it. And he thought that by saying he's going to go and tell the manager, it would force me into wearing it. And he wasn't trying to bully me. It was just a banter thing. So I said, well, I'm not wearing it. And I gave my reasons why. And he said, okay, let me go and get the gaffer, because it was like a joke being through. So he aired it out in the whole dressing room. He aired it out, and I said, fine. Went and got the gaffer. Gaffer came in. I explained my reasons as to why I wasn't wearing it, which is what I just explained to you. And he said, that's fine. And then I didn't wear it. And people were like, oh, wow, like, I didn't expect that from you. And I was like, well, what did you expect to happen? The gaffer to walk in and tell me to wear it? If he forced me to wear it, then it would end up fighting. And and obviously that wouldn't be a good scenario for anyone. So he knew me as my, like, in terms of my character, and obviously what my stance was on it. And this isn't me saying I don't agree with what you're doing, because obviously the initiative is a great initiative, but at the time my experience with it was a negative thing. Now since then the organisation has come a long way, and obviously you're going out there and you're speaking to clubs, and you're more prevalent in the press and online, social media and stuff, and the information about what you're doing is kind of more readily available. Whereas at that point in my career, it was more so like what you said before. It was a case of, okay, put the T-shirt on, wear it, throw it back on the floor, and then that's it, you've done your bit. So, and obviously there was more to it than that, but people just weren't aware. Don't know how Danny,
no, to be fair, listen, let's put it this way. I don't mind criticism, by the way, because if we live in a world where, you know, we get praise and we get criticism. The praise we get, we have to accept it in the same way that we'll get criticism. I've been in the organisation 9 years, by the way, and this is no excuse at all. But when I arrived at the organisation, I'm going to tell you this now. I expected this massive, like, organisation that was dealing with racism. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I walked in an office where there were 5 people.
Okay.
And the office was above a Pizza Express in central London. Honestly, Dan, and I tell this story all the time. I thought it was a small branch of the bigger office that was at Wembley. So I was waiting. I'm waiting to go to Wembley. Do you know what I mean? Because I thought, that's where the big wigs are.
Mm.
So when I met the business manager at the time, I said, "Oh, where is everyone?" You know, she went, "What do you mean, where is everyone?" I went, "No, I just thought that, you know, is this the small one?"
Yeah.
And she went, "No, welcome to Kick It Out."
Jeez.
And I was like, "What?" You know, the organisation that challenges racism and discrimination in football has got like the top floor of an old building with 5 people working in it. And then I
That's
said,
crazy.
how do you exist? How? I said, because I volunteered to start with, Dan. I wasn't even permanently employed. I volunteered. And I went, how do you exist?
Mm.
And she went, what do you mean? How do you exist? Knowing the issues of the game, I
Mm.
just said, how do you exist? So whilst I'm not using that as an excuse, and the other, you know, in terms of, but you can understand, you know, 5 people working in an organization, you know, that's dealing with the whole professional game, the
Yeah.
non-league game, and the grassroots game.
Mm.
The other thing for me is, I would say to you, and you wouldn't know this answer, but did your report actually get to Kick It Out? So
Probably
you've
not.
reported it to the club. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? The
Yeah.
club should have had a process, and that process hasn't changed, by the way,
Mm.
of identifying it to the FA,
Mm.
and also identifying it to Kick It Out. If
Mm.
it's identified to Kick It Out, we then take it to the FA and say, look, professional player playing for, you know, X club,
Mm.
racially abused, bam, there you go. Can you deal
Yeah.
with it and let us know the outcome? You know, my role now would be to contact you and say,
Mm.
Dan, right, it's with the FA. I'll keep you in the loop. It's not going to be a quick story, by the way,
Mm.
but I'll keep you in the loop as to what's going on. We then drum up a relationship. I'll you know, drop you WhatsApps and whatever else and say, boy, Dan, they're hanging on this one. Do you know what I mean? They can't
Yeah.
find a fan or whatever else.
Mm.
You know, that never existed at that time.
Mm.
Now, whilst I fully understand, you know, if feeling let down
Mm.
and saying, well, why am I wearing this then? Do you know
Mm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
I think we're the butt of everyone's kind of criticism
Mm.
that makes the highest level of the game, the FAs, the Premier Leagues, the champ, get away with it, you know, because
True.
we're an easy target,
Yeah.
you know, a much easy target. And I
Yeah.
would also say to you is, where was your union?
Mm.
Where was your union aware?
Probably not. Yeah.
Right. Because they're your immediate support system. Do you
Exactly.
know what I mean? Your
Yeah.
immediate. So listen, I'll hold my hand up and still take flack. You know,
Mm.
I took flack recently over Jonathan Lecco
Okay.
situation that happened in October, you know, with Casillas, the Leeds goalie. I
Yeah.
took unbelievable flack. Do you know why, Danny? Because I don't want to hear a story like yours. I
Mm.
don't want to hear a story like Jonathan Lecco's where he felt let down. But
Mm.
absolutely, I did what I should have done in terms of trying to contact him.
Yeah.
And it was people at the club that as far as I'm concerned,
Mm.
that let him down or
Yeah.
protected him so
Yeah.
that I couldn't get to him to tell him that the process he was just about to go through was
Mm.
going to take about 6 months.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean, Dan?
Wow.
So when I say I'm okay taking a criticism, no one's okay taking a criticism, but I'll take the flack and I'll
Yeah.
also come back and give you kind of my version of events, you
Of
know.
course.
And listen, honestly, I think I wish I was working at the organisation longer.
Mm.
You know, 9 years it's been, but you know, because me and you would have met, me
Yeah.
and you would have discussed your situation.
Mm.
You would have at least had the knowledge to know, well, Troy from Kick It Out is on it. Let's
Mm.
see how far we go with it, you know.
True. Yeah. I think
But
for
you're
me,
another player that's been let down.
exactly. Well, to be honest, my train of thought in terms of my experience wasn't geared towards Kick It Out. It was more so geared towards the fans and society in general. Because my message is, look, if my train of thought was, if you can't actually read and understand the message
Yeah,
on here, why I don't understand. Like, so for me, it was a case of it's not about Kick It Out didn't do anything because I didn't push it. So I didn't push the narrative of
yeah,
my experience with the club or anything like that. I didn't take it any further just because I didn't really want to, and
okay.
because I didn't actually hear it. Because if I'd have heard it, I probably would
Would have
have
been a different
reacted
story. Yeah,
physically,
yeah,
and it would have hurt me a lot more. So I didn't
yeah,
hear it. So that for me, it was a case of thank you for telling me. I appreciate that, and I respect you telling me as a teammate. I told the management just to let them know and make them aware of the situation, but I didn't expect anything. I didn't follow it up, and that's nothing to do with like if I felt like I had to follow it up, then I would have done because my character is I'll just go through it and I'll go to the higher echelons, whoever it may be. So I've always been like that, regardless of whether it's in sport or not. So
yeah.
it's
But
not,
whether it's you, Dan, or
yeah,
whether it's me actually saying, I've heard about the incident, Dan. Are you
mm,
okay? Do you want help? Do you want support? even
Yeah.
that part of it, you know. And like I said, we wasn't a massive organisation back then, and I don't even know if, you know, I wouldn't know if we were aware of your situation.
Of course.
But yours is just one situation. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now
Yeah,
imagine all the situations out there.
100%.
And I'm forever, I'll be honest with you, we are forever apologising to people, because one of the main things is anyone that suffered hurt and pain because of this football club, or sorry, because of this game, why would we not apologise? You know, yeah. So that, you know, that's it for me. And like I say, I think we're a buffer board for many of the top organisations to not take the flak, and you know, we'll buffer it and take the flak and then take it from there. It's just systematic of what it is. But
I definitely agree with that, because even to this day, I mean, the last probably year or so, there's been various different incidences, and like you said, you're an easy target just because you're not. I don't mean to demean the organisation, but you're small time in comparison to Sky and everyone else, in terms of organisational size and presence. So it's easy for them to sit behind and think, oh, well, let's see what Kick It Out are going to do. Let them front it for a little bit. Let Troy go in front of the camera. Let him take the flak for 6 weeks or whatever it may be, and then we'll step aside. That's my opinion. I don't know how you feel or anyone else feels.
Listen,
me.
Listen, we make mistakes as well. You know, there's times when the criticism has been levelled at us, and it's absolutely correct. So I'm not standing here saying that we're the be all and end all. Do you know what I mean? But what I will say is that I think that a lot of the times we are the buffer of criticism for other people to kind of get away with it as such, you know. And any criticism should be something that you delve into and think, why would someone criticize us for trying to do the right thing? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, cool.
So football has failed. Football has failed on this topic. You know, if you're telling me back in 2002, and yet we know that in 2020 it's still a massive issue, that's 18 long years.
Exactly.
It's 18 long years. And then previous to you, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
going forward, I do think it's a societal problem, and football plays a small part for the simple fact that football is the national sport, and in a sense, to a certain degree, everyone likes football or knows about football or knows someone who's involved or likes football or supports a team or something. So it's always kind of prevalent on the news when something happens in football, as opposed to maybe rugby or tennis or something.
Of course.
For me, moving on from this slightly and bringing it into kind of, I don't know, a worldwide thing. Something I always think about is how can we change the narrative or the rhetoric or the psyche of the world. And I know it's a broad kind of subject, and obviously the world is obviously massive, but racism's all across the world. And I'm talking about black people, because I know or I've come across black people that are racist. When we talk about racist, people naturally always think it's just white people against or versus black people. And so I want to put that out there. And there are black people that are racist, white people, Asian, whatever. So for me, everyone needs educating. And for me, I've always thought about how to obviously eradicate it to a certain degree or make steps to eradicate it. And it's not going to be a quick fix. It's not going to happen in a year, 2 years, 3 years. Racism's been around for centuries. So to then think you're going to have some type of format to eradicate it over a year is nonsensical, makes no sense. But I think a step would be to get various leaders, so organizations, people at boardroom level, athletes from all kind of sports across the world, people who are in kind of, I don't know, people who own shops on the streets, people who own banks and whatever it may be. So people from all walks of life, different races. Within those races, you've got different classes. So you've got people, like I said, at boardroom level, people who are just on the street doing what they need to do. People call it the roadman, whatever. They still count in my opinion. So you get all those people from all those different facets and strands, and sit them down on a table, gonna have to be a massive table, and just hash it out and have some dialogue. Because I think without dialogue and understanding, you can't move forward. I can't tell you about my experiences without understanding yours. Because your narrative on racism is going to be different. I can't relate to someone who lives in London who's being stopped every day as a black person by police. Because I'm a black person, I live in Coventry, and it doesn't happen to me. I'm from Leamington Spa, which is a small town just outside of Coventry. and there are a mix of different races there. But I've never come across a policeman stop me in the street. So if tomorrow I go to work and I'm going to go and meet a client and the policeman taps on the shoulder and says, "Can I search you?" I'll be like, "Yeah, happy days, search me," because I've
Mm,
never come across it. But then if it
mm.
happens the next day, I'm thinking, okay, this is strange. It
What's
happened
going
yesterday.
on here?
But
Yeah.
then if it happens a third and fourth time, then I'm going to start getting aggravated and thinking, well, what's going on? Is there another, like, are you pushing a narrative here? So
Mm,
that's the experience that someone in London's having, which I can understand, but I can't relate to because I'm not experiencing it. And that's just a
mm.
small kind of,
That's a great way of putting. That's a great way of putting it. You've also got to remember that in London, it's not just the tap on the shoulder; it's the pulling over. If you're
yeah,
driving something that you're not
mm,
expected to be driving, so
yeah,
that kind of racial profiling,
mm,
of have you seen who's driving that car? Let's pull them over.
yeah,
And then once you've listen, I've been pulled over. I had two. This is quite a while ago, very long time ago.
mm,
But me and the missus had been out for the night, and we didn't bother to take the baby seats out in the back. Yeah,
mm,
we're driving a BMW. It's not a massive, brilliant BMW, but it's a BMW.
yeah,
As we get round by our house, we get stopped. They pulled out, and they followed us right outside our house.
mm,
And the first thing I said was, why are you following us? I went,
mm,
oh, we've got a description of this car being stolen.
mm,
So the first thing I said was, what, with two baby seats in the back? Yeah.
mm,
And he went, well, funny enough, yeah. And I knew he was, and I don't want to say the word, but I knew he was having me on. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
But it very quickly goes from us, come on, mate, now, don't even, just give me the real reason. To the
mm,
man, the officer, let me be respectful, telling me to shut up or he will arrest me.
wow,
Now, we've only had two bits of dialogue, which is one,
that's
why
it,
have you stopped me?
yeah,
And two, are you kidding me? You know what I mean? With
yeah,
a BMW with two baby seats in the back.
mm,
If that's the case, this is your car. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
And within an instant, it was shut up. Don't talk to me like that, or you'll be arrested.
See, that's
And
the
now
problem.
now you can appreciate the commotion that's going to start. Yeah,
Of course,
got the
yeah,
missus who's saying one thing. He's got his fellow colleague who's saying you better listen, and you've
yeah,
got me who's saying, why are you talking to me like that?
exactly,
I haven't done nothing. You know
yeah,
what I mean, Dan? So
yeah,
that's an experience of London and being around London and driving or walking London streets.
yeah.
And like you said, it's a difficult thing to put up with over and over again.
Of course it is. And to be honest, I resonate with what you're saying to a certain degree because I always like to be treated how I treat people. So I can be the kindest man in the world, but I can switch just like that. And if someone
Mm,
speaks to me in a certain way, especially if my family's there, kids and that,
it's
I can't stop it. And I don't, I'll be honest, I'm not saying good, bad, or indifferent. That's just my character. It's how I've been brought
yeah,
up. But I
yeah,
want my kids to understand that I've got their back, and people
yeah.
can't talk to you how they want. So many times I've been in Tesco's or Asda, and you're looking for something, and then you can hear someone huffing and puffing behind you, and then before you know it, they're saying, like, "How long are you going to take?" And that, and I'm ready to go. Then I don't get it
Yeah.
because for me, I'm happy to wait for anyone. If I'm waiting for someone to look for something, you just wait, and that's it. But people are rude, and then when you say your piece, suddenly you're the arrogant or the
That's
rude one, and it's not.
exactly,
So then again, I go
exactly.
further and let them know that they're dealing with someone who's kind of well educated and I know where I
Mm,
stand. So you
mm,
can't kind of just mess with me and expect me to be all nicey. It doesn't work like that.
mm.
So,
Dan, listen. I wear a suit most of the time to work,
mm,
yeah, and to when I travel. So I travel via train or tube because I travel to all the football clubs. And
mm,
I'm not saying that a suit should make you anything different, but I'm a businessman. Put it that way.
yeah,
I'm a businessman
mm,
who has been told to, who has basically been told what you're doing in first class. Who's
wow,
basically been told, sorry, mate, that's my book seat, and a geezer going, prove it. Who's been looked at in a way where it's almost like I don't deserve to be. And
yeah,
this is on transport, by the way. That's there for
crazy,
everybody.
wow,
And I said to my boss, who's white Irish, she said, Troy, I think almost almost as if she said, I think you're making some of this up,
yeah,
right? And I said to her, travel with me.
mm,
And so she traveled with me,
mm,
and then she went, I get what you're talking about now.
wow,
I've never seen it before, but I get
mm,
what you're talking about.
mm,
And seriously, Dan, I'm not saying that I'm no big hierarchical whatever, but
no, yeah,
when
of
you
course,
experience it over and over again, you start to notice things as well,
yeah, naturally,
and you notice things and you kind of think to yourself, here we go again,
yeah,
what have I got to do? I'm just a man trying to mind my own business. I
mm,
normally travel with a colleague who's also black.
Yeah.
So, you got two black people, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, you're kind of like, oh, there's two of them over there.
Mm.
And I've had people with, like, the organisation books you seats, book seats.
Mm.
So if I'm in 46B,
Mm.
that's the one that's been booked for me. I've had people refuse to move. And then another person say, show me the ticket that tells me that's your seat. Not the conductor,
Yeah.
a regular member of the public.
It's
Regular
crazy.
member of the public.
And
So
a little thing like that, I call it little in inverted commas, but a
yeah,
scenario like that can end up escalating, and then one or both of you could end up in prison. Because for
exactly.
me, there's certain scenarios where I just think, okay, like let it slide, but 9 times out of 10 I can't. And then before you know it, you're in a physical, and then before you know it, someone's injured, they've got evidence to show it, and then it's Troy Townsend punch me.
Yeah.
That's it. But
Obviously,
the rest of
I've
it
got to
comes
think
afterwards.
all the time because of my job.
Yeah.
I've got to think all the time not to be a part of any of that kind of controversy, because the first thing will be me,
Yeah.
and I work for Kick It Out, not about the
Yeah.
member of the public who
Exactly.
started the whole scenario,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, always got to be mindful, but always aware. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Always aware.
It's definitely a tough subject, and again, you could sit here all day talking about it. But going forward, I do think some dialogue needs to happen from kind of everyone, from all walks of life, all races. My opinion, anyway. That's me. But going forward slightly, aside from Kick It Out, you're also involved in other charities. I think you've been a sports columnist before, and you've got your own podcast as well. So, I want to just touch on those things for me.
Yeah, so I'm a patron to Football Beyond Borders.
Mm.
That's such a powerful organisation that supports young people.
Mm.
Started off in South London, but it's now Football Beyond Borders has branched out to Manchester as well, and it's the thing that's giving young people hope,
Okay.
whilst letting them show off their abilities. Our young people, particularly those within a schooling age, sometimes are not allowed to show off their creativity, not allowed to show that they can be something in their lives. Do you know what I mean? And the power of what Football Beyond Borders do, and like I say, I'm a patron, but I don't even get involved as much as maybe I'd like to because of my job. But every time I see them do a showcase, they do showcase events at the end of the year where the young people show off their talent, their ability. And I don't mean, I'm talking about in reading, in writing, in being creative to put together magazines, creative in putting together, clothing wear and talking about the topics that we've been discussing for the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That gives me hope. It gives me hope that the generation that constantly gets knocked, how they've got no future, and it's not just black children either. Children from different backgrounds, ethnicities. I sat next to the last showcase. I sat next to a white family, mum, dad, two kids who had gone through the program, and one elder son.
Okay.
I've never seen a family so proud of the two kids who had already been told that they would probably struggle to attain any kind of level of results. They are probably put on the risk list. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yet I saw them up on stage talking confidently and expressing how much Football Beyond Borders has helped them grow and develop as young people.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, we can't buy that. You can't buy that kind of experience. So, I'm very privileged. Chris Smalling's involved with them, as well. And you get people like that who are willing. Cyrus Christie at Fulham. You get people who want to support because of the impact that they can see.
Yeah.
So yeah, really proud of that. I write columns every so often for the Voice newspaper.
Okay.
So I write about football, just anything that we could be doing from an educational point of view, or certain situations that are happening out in the beautiful game, and just giving it from my perspective.
Yeah.
So I normally write once a month, but I haven't written for about 2 months now.
Okay.
And you know what? The big thing about that, Dan, is I left school without anything.
Okay.
I left school with no qualifications. I very hardly took any of my exams because it was pointless. I always thought I was going to be a professional footballer, so I didn't feel that I needed the rest of the stuff. And if you asked me to put together some sentences, I'm telling you now, you wouldn't be able to read what I was putting together. Right. I could write, but I couldn't write in terms of, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the fact that I write mainly from here, just made on here, you know,
Yeah.
and people listen. And listen, I'm telling you now, it's not the best thing in the world. It's not that, but you know what? They've given me a platform to openly discuss anything that I want to discuss around sport.
Okay.
And I'm really proud because it's taken me out of my comfort zone, whilst also allowing me to express stuff that I would never thought that I would have expressed before.
Right.
You know, so really proud of what I do for them. And the conversation, the podcast that we run, I run it with Rodney Hines, who's a sports editor at The Voice, and Darren Lewis, who's obviously sports correspondent, writer at the Daily Mirror, The Mirror. And we just want to give a different perspective on, you know, 3 black men, you know, maybe at times there's only 2 of us, but we see Sunday Supplement, you know, we see, you know, Sky Sports, we see BT, and unless you're one of the top players, we never see people like us, you know, and we don't see people like us hosting the programs. We don't see, you know, diversity in the kind of people that come on. So we do a thing that's online, and we give people the opportunity to talk in an open, safe environment, you know, sports people to talk, journalists to talk, you know, and we've had some very revealing conversations with them. And I'm just really proud of being able to, again, from someone who, like I said to you, whose background really is nothing to be shouting about. I'm really proud of someone. So working for an anti-discrimination organization, you know, patron of a charity who, you know, brings young people to absolute life, to writing for a black-owned newspaper, and to hosting my own podcast. And that's why I say, Dan, sometimes you can't moan at life, you know, because there's a lot of people that have a lot more, you know, a lot less than what I do. That's for sure.
100%. I mean, I've watched some of the podcasts, and they are really enjoyable. And like you said, it's true. You see things from a different perspective, which sometimes you don't see. Everyone's got a perception of athletes, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent. And sometimes I can understand why athletes are kind of detached, especially nowadays. Social media. Back in my day, when I was kind of coming into the sport, coming into football, there was nothing really apart from someone had to have a camera to get a picture of you. Now it's the general public who are the media, as opposed to the actual media broadcasting companies. So I can see why people, especially athletes in general, don't kind of second guess or apprehensive about appearing on certain shows, just because they don't know what the other person is trying to get from it. Every sports person, as you know, people are trying to sell you stuff just for their own kind of benefit, and there are a lot of underhand people out there. So for you to get people on and obviously get them to kind of come out of their shell to a certain degree gives the opportunity for people like myself and the general public to see them from a different perspective. So that's great.
Yeah.
In terms of my podcast, obviously, as we mentioned before off air, it's about making people aware that athletes have got transferable skills. So the skills that I'm talking about are skills which are transferable to other industries. And sometimes people, especially footballers, can get caught up in that football bubble where you're just a footballer and that's it, you don't know anything else. And we don't want you to know anything else. Just concentrate on making it and playing well and appearing on whatever TV shows and whatever else. But there's more to athletes than that. And a lot of athletes they're not aware of this as well. And I think as athletes, aside from football, sport in general, athletes have got a lot of transferable skills which the general public, so to speak, haven't got. And they can bring a lot to the table in terms of being in the office or whether it be involved in sports still. But upstairs at boardroom level. And I think there's an opportunity being missed by a lot of organisations because they're not willing to employ sports people. It's still to this day, people are naturally just looking at what's on the CV, which is great. Obviously, there are certain jobs, doctor and whatever else, certain vocations that you need to fall into whatever role it may be. But there are a lot that don't require those things. You just need to be given a chance. And luckily for me, when I retired from football, I was given a chance. But I had to start from the bottom, which is understandable. And sometimes as sports people, you're not willing to do that because you're looking for parity in terms of wages. And you may be at a certain level in terms of wages and you're looking for something else that can give you that kind of lifestyle, so to speak. You may not be able
security
to
side of it.
So you may not be able to get that initially. You have to be willing. So it's fine me sitting here and talking to people and saying, okay, great, more needs to be done. PFA need to do more and whatever else. But as a player, as an athlete, as a person, you need to have that gumption yourself. You need to have that willingness to go out and use your network, or go outside your network and integrate with society. Put yourself
Mm,
out there
mm,
and show that you're willing to learn. Otherwise,
mm.
people generally, unless you're kind of high profile and people know who you are, nothing's really going to
You're
fall
not
in
going to
the
look at you. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So you need to put yourself out there. And essentially, as a sports person, you're starting from back to front anyway. So
Back
when
to
you retire,
scratch. Yeah.
you're starting from scratch, essentially. So all your friends, when you're 31, 32, and you're starting out your second period in your life, your second career, all your friends who have kind of finished school and went into work, whether it be apprenticeships or whatever in the workplace, they've gone past middle management. They're now in
Mm,
kind of CEO or business owners or whatever
mm.
it may be. So you may have the same skill set as them in terms of mental skill set and ability, but on paper you haven't, and you haven't got the experience. So hence why you may have to start from the bottom. In terms of your experiences, because obviously you played football to a certain degree, but you've got a son who is a high-profile professional footballer, and you've come across a lot of sports people.
Yeah.
Um, what are your kind of thoughts on athletes having transferable skills? What have you come across, and what advice can you give to any athletes or organisations out there?
Do you know what? I look at it in two ways, Dan, because I look at it as I class myself as the failed player
Mm,
who didn't prepare for failure.
okay.
You know, the industry doesn't kind of prepare you for it, does it? You know, it's
No,
put all your eggs in one basket. You know, if it happens, it happens. If it don't, then sorry, you're gone. We'll leave you alone. You know,
yeah.
you're out of the game. And I didn't prepare. You know, I was released. Last time I was released was 16, and like I said, I left school with nothing and absolutely had nothing to look forward to in
Mm,
terms of what would I do next. You know, and I suffered mentally because there wasn't a preparation kind of for after the game as such, or you
yeah.
know, for being released, and got into all kind of silly habits and silly things, you know. And you know, it was one night that, you know, absolutely, like a friend of mine was sliced. His eye was sliced open. Someone that's racially motivated, full stop. They
Mm,
literally sliced underneath his eye, and his eye was hanging down. I'm DJing, so my transferable skill was I love music, and I'm
right.
playing music, and
Mm,
I'm in an area of East London where there are not many. There were black people, but they didn't frequent the bar that I was playing in.
right.
And then I'm playing, and all of a sudden I'm bringing a diverse group of people into this bar who's going from about 20 people to, I don't know, 250 people in there. So
Mm,
it was definitely working, but there was a jealousy around it. And like I said,
okay.
to cut a long story short, it cost my mate nearly his eye, you know, and that kind of made me think I need to do something better with my life, because this is not what I'm about. You know, I
Mm,
was around a group of people who, I'm going to be honest here, did drugs and threatened people and earned
mm,
money through illegal transactions and all that kind of stuff. You know,
right.
I was a follower. So
Mm,
in football, I captained all my teams. I was deemed as a leader. When football spat me out, I then became a follower. You know, I wanted that notoriety of being part of the game again.
mm,
And I've learned my transferable skills as I've tried to earn money. Do you know what I mean? I
yeah.
didn't pre-prep. I learnt them as I tried to earn money,
Mm,
like I say, to the point where obviously I've told the listeners now what I do now. I'm quite proud of what I did, but not everyone can take a 20-year journey to do that, or a 25-year journey to do that. I do see I do see a lot of players being more conscious of the next stage. You
mm,
know, so if we talk about, you know, even in my own son, he started properties up from a very early age. You know, we, as a family where I didn't get the support of my parents, we definitely made sure we supported him. And at the time, we didn't know where his journey was going, but we wanted
okay.
to support him from the very out. And then when he started to earn a little bit of money, it was to make sure that he put the money to good use rather than just spend, spend, spend. And he's never really been a spender, to be totally honest. I mean,
Right.
our family never had nothing, you know, so any
Yeah.
little bit of money was nice, you know.
Mm,
But yeah, he's put into properties from almost from the outset. So
wow.
whereas the kind of the end of his career, which may be soon,
Mm,
he hasn't got to start at the bottom
yeah.
because he pre-planned from a very long time ago.
Mm,
Now he's free to go into whatever he wants to go into
yeah.
as he finishes his career.
Mm,
And everything is about the advice you receive and the people you have around you.
yeah.
Because a lot of this will be hangers on. You know, you have a lifestyle, you earn a particular amount of money, you have a lifestyle. Do you know what I mean? And then you have to keep that lifestyle going.
Yeah.
And then there'll be the hangers on who want you to keep that lifestyle going because it helps them as well, you know?
Yeah.
And I think we've got a more conscientious group of players now who are prepared to, do you know what, have a lifestyle, but put some aside. Have a lifestyle, but let it run aside business interests.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not as concerned, particularly at the highest level, but obviously, like you said, Dan, it's difficult when you're talking about the levels of you know, League One, League Two.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, you've got to go and fish for that living again.
Yep.
Because your earnings are making you survive now, giving you a little bit. Do you know what I mean? You can look good, but unless you've stocked it up, you've then got to go and fish again for a living. And like you said, start from the bottom. So I would always say to people, do you know what? To do your development part, your next stage part in the process of playing. Now that is tough because, you know, when you know better than me, Dan, the game is so regimented.
Yeah.
So regimented. Although people say, oh, they have a lot of time off, them footballers, don't they? You know, do you know what I mean? It's how you make that time to good use. And also you could have a family that needs to, you know, that wants your attention as well, you know. But if you can, I would always say, you know, properties is a great thing. It can be a headache, but it can be a great thing. It also can lead to you absolutely wanting to own your own kind of business that works around properties as well, you know.
Yeah.
And that could be from the income that you're getting because of properties that you're renting out, etc.
Yeah. Cool.
As professional players now, there's this program called the On Board program. So you spoke about, you know, getting into boardrooms and stuff like that. Getting into boardrooms is not as easy as it sounds, but the On Board program helps develop that boardroom mindset.
I've signed up for it.
Oh, there you go.
Starting it in September, hopefully.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, Carl, your tutor, Carl, bam, he's spot on.
Yeah.
He's brilliant. You'll have fun whilst you learn, and then you get down to the nitty gritty. He is amazing. I did it 5 years ago. Okay. Now, what that does is open up opportunities in terms of, you know, a lot of the boys I was with, and there's a couple of girls as well, are using that because we want to think about football as a long-term future. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But what they do once you've passed out is they give you like opportunities in housing, opportunities in the NHS, opportunities in various other industries that you can actually go and sit on a board, you know. And for me, that's magnificent insight. You know, yes, you want football because your knowledge is in football, but imagine sitting on a board at the NHS and appreciating and understanding all of that. So you've got to work at it in tandem with your career. And I think in the past, your career has never allowed that to. But you've got to be strong-willed and strong-minded to be able to go, do you know what? Football is not going to last forever for me. And I still need to feed my kids when it's done. Do you know what I mean? And my family when it's done. So I would urge anyone to make sure that they, you know, whether you're 24, 26, 28, think about it. Think about it now, you know, and make sure you keep investing in your future. You know, the football industry, like you said, is not an endless pot of money. You know, and even if you go into coaching, your money dips massively, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? So just think about the opportunity and connect with good people. Connect with people that have transferred out of the game. Connect with people who, there's a lot of, you know, Marvin Sordell, very good friend, is starting up a business now that's helping with that transition. Yeah. You know what I mean? So people like that have, you know, Marvin retired at 28 years of age. He could have had another 6-7 years in his career, you know, but he hasn't faltered for it. You know, he's not wanting. And he's also looking out for players as well. And in looking out for players, he's giving them opportunity to sign up to FC Transition, and, you know, get placements. Find out what other industry, what are they doing? Where does your potential, what's up there? Where does it match in another industry, you know, or another sport, or in football, or totally away from football, you know? Where's your creative mind going to get you? So I would always say, do a little bit of research, go into and go talk to people like that. First of all, it doesn't hurt to have a conversation.
Of course.
Another organisation called Laps Careers, you probably know them as well, you know. Again, you know, go into that kind of thing and ask the questions that would then make you go home, have a chat with the missus and plan out your future at a very early stage, you know. Because the ultimate thing is, Dan, and you'll know this again, is your career. You know, we're in the industry where your career can end
Mm.
just like that.
Yeah,
You
100%.
know, and when your career is like that, you're almost like a disposable asset to the football clubs.
Definitely.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we need to be selfish. And I know people think footballers are selfish, but in a sense, you need to be selfish about what you want for your own life to be able to achieve it once your career is done, you know? So
Yeah.
that would be doing bits of research, having conversations with people that have, you know, just transitioned out of the game, who have long time transitioned, and positive and negative as well. Learn about the tough experiences whilst appreciating the valuable ones that actually think, I can align myself to that, you know?
Yeah.
It's not an easy process, and it's a process that will last definitely over a period of time. But yeah, I think players are more aware that, you know, when you think of retiring at, let's say on average 33, 34, you've got 30 years of your working life left.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Great
like
advice.
I say, yeah, the high profile players are fine. You know, those that are earning that money and absolutely can end the game and then pick whatever they want to do next.
Yeah.
But the everyday player has got to look at, I've got to work again for another 30 years.
Yeah. 100%.
With maybe take a year off, you know, and then I've got to get into something.
Yeah.
That's tough.
That's great advice. I mean, I agree with everything you said there, and it's certainly easier to do if you're still playing. So work in something that runs parallel to you playing. And it's about trial and error. It's not about maybe finding something at the first attempt. It's easy to go into something and leave it, and at least then you know that's not for you. Move on to the next thing. If that's not for you, move on whilst you're still playing. Again, for me, my experience was slightly different. So my mindset was, look, if I don't make enough money by the time I come to retirement age, I'm going to have to work. And I had that mindset from the age of 23, 24, although I didn't know what I wanted to do. So my train of thought was, I'm not in this bubble, never have been. All my friends are just friends from school, wherever. Never really had football friends. So they were always fine with me anyway. So when it came to retirement, I was at a crossroads. And on the day I got offered a job in property, I got offered to go and train with another club with a view of earning a contract within a couple of days, just to prove my fitness. And I just turned it down. I said, look, I know for a fact I'm going to have to work. So if I go and sign again for another year, again, I'm going to be in a
just delaying it, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm just delaying it. So I just thought, you know what? I explained to the manager at the time, Martin Boyle, at Hereford. And I just said, look, this is the reason why I'm going to turn it down. He said, if I was in your shoes, I'd do the same. And then I've never looked back since. So I'll be honest, I was lucky. I went out and I sourced the job just through the normal channels, and I sent in my CV, which again is a massive thing. No one wants to know how many games you played or how many medals you've won. It's about what your skills are and what you're going to bring to the company. And that's it. So do your research, like you said, speak to people, and don't see retirement as a negative. Because too often I hear people talk about even their approach to the question. I used to get asked, "Oh, what are you going to do after you finished?" And straight away, it's a negative conversation.
Of course it is. Yeah.
Rather than saying, "Oh, what are you going to do to help people once you finish?" That's different, because then you think, "Oh, actually, I can do X, Y, and Z." And then
X. Yeah.
Yeah. Rather than, "Oh, actually, I don't know. I don't want to think about it. I've got a game next week." You put it to the back of your head, because it's just a negative conversation. And sometimes people will ask you just to try and catch you out. And I found that a lot of times as well from various different people.
But that's what I think, Dan, when people are already doing stuff. Do you know what I mean? They say, well, actually, I've got a business running, I'm still playing, and I've got a mindset of to go into the media. Do you know what I mean? While still running my business. And the amount of shocked faces, what, you got a business running? What? You're going to, what? Do you know what I mean? That's what I like to see, when the player has already been actively kind of looking at his career, like you've said, you know, from an early age, and can actually answer the negative question with such a positive that throws it back in people's faces as such. Because remember, footballers are not supposed to be the brightest spark, are they?
Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing I hate, because you put in all these footballers across the world, millions and millions of people in one bracket, and you're saying that we're all fit. It makes no sense. So I've always dismissed that. And I think sometimes people get surprised when they actually speak to me and they think, "Oh, actually, you used to play football." That makes no sense. It's just a narrative that I've never agreed with. And it gets my back up as well. But going forward then, do you think more help is needed for athletes in general?
Yeah, listen, without doubt, and it's not to knock some of the initiatives that are in place, but
Mm-hmm.
how readily available are they? You know, how much are players aware about, you know, opportunities to develop whilst they're playing, opportunities to almost, let's put it in a nutshell, increase their earning potential. You
Yeah,
know, increase the awareness of the opportunities, or the, like you said, the transferable skills that not everyone comes into football just with a football brain.
yeah,
You know, there's other things we've taken into place that we haven't had to utilize because
mm,
football has given us that opportunity to be a sports individual, you know.
yeah,
And I think yeah, just the way that the perception around the game and the perception around the people that play it,
mm,
you know, I almost hope that players use that as a, do you know what, I'm going to show you anyway, because I'm
yeah,
more intelligent than what you've ever thought that I am.
yeah,
Yes, I kick a ball around for a living. Yes, you think that I'm lazy because I only train twice a day and
mm,
play a football match at the end of the week. But
mm,
actually, do you know what? I've got it. Don't worry about that. You know what?
yeah,
And I'm going to quietly go about my business, you know?
mm, massive. Really appreciate you coming on today. Enjoyed the chat. If you want
Pleasure,
to just
Dan.
let people know where we can find you and obviously what you actually do, so where we can find you on social media and obviously just touch on what you do again slightly.
So where you can find me is any platform that says at Towno10. So
Okay.
in Twitter and Instagram is literally just at Towno10. My
Yeah,
favorite number with the shortening of my name and put an O on that. So yeah,
brilliant.
the conversation is at the conversation. So if you wanted to follow the podcast, when you put the conversation in, replace the E with a free. So it's at the conversation. Again, you know, I work in football and I'm really lucky to be working in the game, you know. If
Mm,
anyone had told me the day that I was released and the subsequent years afterwards that I struggled, that I'd eventually be back working in the game and
yeah,
providing education and you know, helping mentoring side of it, helping people find careers and,
mm,
you know, just I would never have believed it. So the fact that I do that now is amazing. One thing that I didn't mention, and I, you know, we're there talking about transferable skills and everything. I owned a business.
okay.
You know, I used to run a business for 15 years.
Wow.
I don't know why that's gone right over my head, but me and my
Uh-huh.
business partner, who unfortunately has passed away now, run a sports
Mm,
development company. And
okay.
it was, again, you talk about what we knew, what we know, we knew sport. And so what we did is we went into schools and provided sports provision, you know, allowed the teachers to have PPA time while we had a specialist sports business. And we took,
Mm,
in the end, at one stage, we had over 30 schools. This was before everyone was doing that kind of stuff. Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? But you know what? If you know your gig, if you know your sports, you know, particularly at a primary level, you can go into that as well, you know,
Yeah.
where we're helping the future.
Mm,
So helping the future obviously is massive as well, particularly if you're a sports individual, you know, and
mm.
helping guide the next generation through the pitfalls and everything else, you know, is a great thing. So yeah, 15 years before I entered into the Kick It Out gig, and then doing everything that I do for the organisation.
Brilliant. Appreciate that. Obviously, appreciate the insight. Keep doing what you're doing. Seems
Thank you.
like obviously you're
Stan.
onto a good thing. We already know that. I'm sure you'll be a success. Keep obviously spreading the message regarding Kick It Out. And then yeah, just keep in touch along the way. Hope it goes well for you going forward.
Will do, without doubt. Most definitely. Will do. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you. See you soon.
See you soon, Dan.